welcome to livingthegoodlifepodcast.com. Hi, I'm Deb Morais.
Hi, I'm Steve Cass.
And together we've been doing this show for quite some time. First on what you know as terrestrial radio, and now as livingthegoodlifepodcast.com. Hope you're going to stay with us. So we've covered a wide variety of topics, and we're going to continue to do that. This time, let's start with something that's been fun. Of course, living the good life means travel. We've been doing it. Weren't we just thrilled to know that when we got a good price for a Breeze flight, wait, there's more, you had to pay for a seat. Cass, do you remember when we were doing this, we were going to Florida?
I do. I couldn't believe my eyes.
So what do you do with it? Of course, it says, wait,
no,
there's...
I'm going to stand.
You're going to stand. It's a 3-hour flight from where we are in Providence. So the option was, well, I suppose I don't want a seat. You're going to make me stand for 3 hours if I don't click further and pay more. Well, we did click further. We did pay more. And yes, we do care about sitting together. Yes. But don't you know, there had to be a way to work around this. So guess what? We relied on ChatGPT to tell us, guess what? When you go through Breeze Airways and you book your flight and you got that cheap flight, you can just go to checkout. You actually do not need to pick your seats right then and pay an extra $30, $15, or $60, or whatever it is that they want. You can actually leave that alone, wait till you get to the airport and go to check-in. And guess what? If you have 2 tickets, then they have to give you 2 seats. Problem is, of course, you can't guarantee that you'll sit together. But what a terrible setup. What do you think about that? Isn't that strange, Cass?
I think that's nuts.
I don't know why they have to do that way. Wasn't it President Biden who said something about we're going to make sure that there's transparency so that you don't get these tacked on fees for it? That was ridiculous. Well, here's the good news. Yes, there is a way around it. If you don't mind potluck or taking a chance when you get to the airport or to check in, you will get your seat. You don't actually have to pay $70. For people who travel alone, guess what? That must be a great idea for you because you won't care necessarily that you're not sitting with someone if you're traveling solo. So that's good news for living the good life if you're going to continue to travel. Anyway, so moving on. We talk about kids, and we think that that's still an important topic when it comes to living the good life. And there's so much bad news. Cass and I've been reading. Got to say, it's kind of important for people to think about your education and for parents to think about the mental health of their kids. So out of 2 topics that share relatively bad news, we have a couple of thoughts. So first topic was what? Your kids and how they're doing in school.
Well,
what do you figure about
nearly
that?
9 out of 10 parents think that their kids are doing great.
In school.
In school.
How can they think that? But okay.
Guess what? They're wrong. It's not true. And why is it not true, Deb? Tell them why.
So you think that when your kids are getting those standardized tests or they're getting their report card, I think they still call it that, they seem to show well on both of those. If there isn't great divergency, if they both shows that they're doing pretty well, you should think that your kid's doing very well in school. No, that's not true because they've changed the game. Guess what? They lower the standards. What's the scoop on that, Cass?
Well, the scoop is what you just said. They lower the standard.
How can
but
they
they
do
don't
that?
tell anybody.
They didn't tell anyone.
So when the child brings what?
The report card home or the test
when
scores?
they bring whatever they send home isn't accurate because they don't make it accurate. And
So-
that's done on purpose. And
Why?
I have no idea why.
Keeps the funding going, makes the teachers' unions
Makes
look
them
like
look
they're all
better.
doing well. But they're not. They're not. So, of course, you've got to look at try to find the bright side of it. What do you do? If you're a parent, should you just take a look at those 2 results and say, maybe that's not true? If you do say that, what do you do next? One thought was, why don't you just talk to your kids and ask, how do you think you're doing in school relative to your kids, your friends, your peers? Chances are they aren't going to necessarily say that I'm doing so much worse than the rest of my friends. They might, but in either case, if all the kids in school now have their grades boosted by the teachers, by the school system, you have to wonder. And then the other side of it is, if you see that there's great disparity, say the kids are all getting A's in their report cards, and then they do these standardized tests, which also have been lowered, Now what do you do? If there's great disparity, go to the school. Hey, parents, go to the school system and say, please explain this. Or is,
They're not going to tell you.
they're not. They have to tell you that
No,
everyone's.
they don't have to do anything.
They have to tell you. They have to say, well, we've
The
changed
law
the
says
standards.
that they can't do what they're doing.
But and
So
they're
they're
doing it
breaking the law now.
in the first place. So what do? Have your kids tested independently. Is that a possibility? And if they're not doing well, yank them out of the public schools. I hate to see that. Not everybody can do that, of course. What do you do with
Well,
that?
because it's expensive to go to private school.
Of course it is.
And the private schools don't do that.
It is. It's terrible to think that you should have to. But if your kids are suddenly all acing and you know that they're barely doing their homework, I mean, I think that parents must know when their kids come home and all they're doing is futzing with the phone and they're not doing homework and they're suddenly acing everything. And then when they do those standardized tests, oh, your kid is so proficient. No, he's not. I think that it's very easy to tell that your kid isn't performing at grade level. And we see, here's a note, never mind just in the poorer districts or in the low-income districts.
It's predominant in the lower income bracket.
Certainly you expect that. But guess what? Not only, which is awful. I mean, it's everywhere.
Well,
It shouldn't be. So, not every important note here, not every state does this, but yours might. Important to ask. Maybe you can go to your school committee and say, can you check into this or something?
the history of Rhode Island
Rhode Island.
is not great in
You're
getting
right.
honest answers or any answers that you can understand.
And so goes to that political commentary. I get why you're saying that.
So, and now they want to go back to Providence,
Yeah,
which
Providence
was one
is-
of the worst to begin with.
So for those of you who aren't following, that means that Providence School is now going back to the Providence teachers, the Providence school system for control rather than having the city control it.
Right.
We'll see how that goes.
Okay.
Well, the question you might say, could it get any worse? I don't know. I don't know.
It
The
just,
performance was bad.
it just boggles the mind to think that a public school system is not telling parents the truth. That's terrible.
You're right. You're right. But if you
And
are,
maybe parents should learn how to give exams
how about that? Or read
before,
to their
before
kids.
dinner.
Don't laugh, but I actually have friends. Of course, I'm not 20 years old with a kid who's 6 or whatever, or in my 20s with a kid who's 6. But friends of ours actually did end up watching over their kids' homework and actually had reading after school before they went out to play or after they went out to play. But in other words, we always say, parents, you need to be involved. This clearly underscores that even more. So parents, stay involved with your kids.
Oh, hello.
Hello, that may be a call that's coming in, but we're not going to take that.
No, we're not.
That means something we're going to say right now.
Call from
We're shutting it off.
97.
And we'll go back. So, no, we won't.
Okay.
The other topic that we wanted to discuss relative to kids is the importance of their mental health. Don't you hear all the time how kids are so much more stressed, feeling it, whether they should or not? Well, we have yet another reason for kids to be stressed, which is not great news to share, but there are things that are being done. So, deportation is a big issue right now, Cass. What are we hearing about the latest relative to the deportation of kids and their separation with parents?
Well, it turns out that there are 100,000, write that down, 100,000 children who have been separated from their parents by our government.
And why would
Now,
they
how's
do,
that for a reason to not come to America?
why would they do that? Why would they do
100,000 kids, and all the psychiatrists got together and they wrote a blistering story about it
Right,
in the New York
New York
Times,
Times.
and explaining how that hurts the child. Not that I need to hear that.
Now, isn't that important? You
I can
probably
figure that
need
out myself.
Well, you know that
Where's
would
my
not.
mother and father?
Wouldn't you think, too, that in the infinite wisdom of ICE and how they've set this up, that the last thing that they would want to do is have to handle a pen full of unsupervised kids who've been separated from their parents, who you know have got to be in even worse shape than they were just going through and across the border and getting caught. It would seem to me that they would want to, even under any circumstances where they're detaining the parents, keep them together, and if you're going to deport them together. Doesn't that make common sense? What happened to common sense, right?
Can you imagine what foreign countries think about that story when they hear it? And what is going on in that country? We used to think this was a good country. They had brains. They did the right thing.
You're right. That does not make us does not make us look like we're one of the advanced countries, never mind a world leader. But of course, the other side of it is the pediatricians, the psychologists, if they raise enough of a ruckus, perhaps it can move up the chain. Maybe one of the congressmen or congresswomen might be listening, and maybe they might just say, minimally, keep the families together. Minimally, keep them together when they come in, keep them together when you send them out. Either way, keep them together. Wouldn't you think that would just make common sense and be simpler? Wouldn't you think?
Well, it's obvious the psychiatrists are well aware of this, because they're the ones who are finally making noise about it. I don't know how long it's been going on.
And it's continuing, obviously, and not good. And not good.
I was horrified to see that, and I imagine anyone listening would not be too happy.
I can't imagine.
Not too proud of our country.
So maybe
that's terrible.
So maybe what might be a good idea is for pediatricians and psychiatrists in various states, call your congressman and say, wait a minute, of all the things that you have to do that certainly aren't kind, certainly ICE needs to be reeled back, save that for another day. At least keep the parents and the kids together. Good suggestion. Wouldn't you think?
We all thought that was going on.
You're right. At least initially,
the president said it was only going to be the criminals. Right?
Yeah. Oh, we did hear that. That's right. Last thing that we needed to hear.
One of many promises that somehow
slipped through the cracks.
Got left.
So, one other thing. What's supposed to be a good news story also has another edge that we need to talk about relative to how you live and how we survive. The wonders of Wegovy and things like that. Great that they've been able to help people who have diabetes. Great that they've been able to help people with weight loss when they couldn't manage it as they usually do. The good and the bad news is it costs a lot. That's not good news. The good news is that it's being covered by many of the states and cities and towns and municipalities' employees' health coverage. Good news. What's the bad news, Cass?
The bad news is the price
what happens?
Of weight loss drugs is incredible.
And as a result, the towns are going, if not bankrupt, they're having to steal from Peter to pay Paul to cover their expenses. That's always a recipe for danger, wouldn't you say?
You know, I went on a weight loss program myself years ago.
I remember this.
And I was oversized by about, 80 pounds?
Maybe.
And I decided to lose weight. And I want to lose 80 pounds. And I didn't want to do anything artificial. I decided to eat intelligently because I had a wife who thought that was a good idea.
Yes.
And I'll help you. And she was a size 4. So looking at me must have been somewhat of a shock. But she loved me anyway.
Yes.
Which I was impressed with.
Yes.
However, I did it the hard way, which wasn't hard. I had small meals and lost the 80 pounds. As you can see, do I look like I used to weigh 5 million pounds? No.
Not 300 pounds. Well, honestly, I don't think there was Wegovy for weight loss. I think that is a drug that had been used for a while.
That's
Ozempic.
More recent, yeah.
Ozempic was actually used for people who had diabetes or some other kidney-related illnesses, but it also was well used and well known as the weight loss drug. So you did it the old-fashioned way. You tried to just cut calories, watch what you eat.
I call it the intelligent way, not the old-fashioned way.
Well,
and by the way, so many of these folks lose the weight with the pills and then gain it back.
Good point. Exactly.
Which is incredible.
That's a terrible situation.
That's true.
So does that mean they have to stay on it for the rest of their lives?
Sometimes.
Maybe. But what happens to the cities and towns who have to pay that for health coverage they can't now back that out, I guess. That's part of their coverage. It's doctor prescribed, and so they're going to absorb it. They're in the whole $19,000 a month or whatever it is, depending on the size of the town.
$19,000 a month.
No, whatever it is.
For the town, yeah.
Yes, for the town. So the question is, what do you do about that? Do you end up saying, okay, I'm sorry that you need to have that weight loss drug, but you're not going to get it paid through the state employees?
Well, one way, have your lips sewed together and leave a little spot for
a straw.
And that's going to be dinner.
That could be breakfast, lunch.
That could work.
You can have a new diet with smoothies. I mean, honestly, that weight loss drug is a wonderful thing, and it's helped so many people. And it's been known to help people who have heart issues because they have weight loss and then their heart is less taxed. And it's had long-range value, which is probably why the employees have been saying, you do want to cover it because you don't want to have the added cost of my accompanying health problems if I don't lose weight. I can understand that. Maybe they could just put a window on it or something. You get a year or you get 6 months or something. How do they handle that?
Go to a window store?
No. In other words, why don't they just put a term limit on it? Could they put a
term limit?
Yes, you could be on it for...
You put that on Congress.
They should probably do that too. But maybe if they had them for a year, see how it works, and then see if they could wean them off it or if they'd be willing to. I mean, obviously, there has to be a solution. You can't, there's no going back, I guess. There's no way for them to say, sorry, we're not going to cover that anymore if it's already been written in. But that's an unsustainable cost. That's an unsustainable cost. What do you think they should do?
I have no answer because I couldn't do it for myself for many years.
But you did. You did.
Well,
we'll
that's
give you credit
because I married you.
Okay. We'll take a little credit for that.
Other than that, I don't know what I would have done.
Well, we're glad that there are options. There should be options. And I wonder, out of all of the people who are taking Wegovy and these Ozempic drugs, I wonder how many of them actually truly, truly need it versus they're taking what seems to be just an easy way out so that you can take a pill and all-you-can-eat buffets afterwards. I mean, that was never the intention, obviously. But if maybe there's a way that they can learn to monitor that before every city, state, and town goes bankrupt just on Wegovy.
I would think our country probably has the worst...
I hope not.
...dining sessions in the world.
The eating habits. Well...
I don't think any other country... Well, other countries can't afford to eat a lot in many cases.
That's true, too.
But we can.
But imagine when you think about how people are eating now, the cost of food is more expensive, and people will sometimes opt for Cheetos over the baked potato and broccoli or something. That's certainly not a solution. That's another topic for living the good life. Watch your nutrition, whether you're trying to lose weight or just trying to stay healthy. I think we'll save that for another day.
Yes, we shall.
So I think this is probably a good time to wrap up this session.
Yes.
Stay tuned for the next installment, which we promise will be soon. Next, Living the Good Life, I can't wait to talk about one of my favorite topics.
What would that be?
Tanglewood. It's prime season, and
the
it's just a few weeks
of the
away.
Boston Symphony Orchestra.
Can't wait.
Summer home.
Can't wait. We hope you'll stay tuned to Living the Good Life.
We have a fabulous Philharmonic Orchestra in Rhode Island,
Point well
which
taken.
many people may not realize.
Point well taken.
Thank God some do.
Yes, we do.
But we could use more help. Classical music, I know some people don't like. I don't know why, because it's fabulous music.
It is.
And I was raised on it. And
so was I.
So you were too.
But of course, there's also more music to come because we're celebrating our 250th anniversary. So there's much more of the symphonies and things that are going to be open to open air events this summer. So stay tuned to livingthegoodlifepodcast.com. We're out. I'm Deb Morais.
I'm Steve Cass.
Thanks for tuning in. Take care. Bye-bye.